never thought my life could implode over a text message. But then again, when you accidentally send a full confession about your deepest desire to your best friend, maybe chaos is the only reasonable outcome. The screen lit up my room with that cursed glow. You like me? I stared at it like it had grown fangs. My heart had already sprinted a marathon in my chest, and my fingers hovered over the keyboard like I could undo the whole universe by deleting words. I typed, backspaced, typed again, and then, in a cruel twist of fate, my phone slipped from my sweaty fingers and clattered to the floor. Silence. I could hear the hum of the ceiling fan, the distant bark of a dog, and my own panicked thoughts racing faster than they should. Then came the reply, short and unnervingly calm. We need to talk. We did everything together: movies, late-night ice cream runs, embarrassing karaoke sessions in my living room, but nothing had ever hinted at this. My best friend, Ryan, who had been my anchor since middle school, was about to look at me differently, forever. And I was terrified. The next day, he showed up at my front porch, leaning casually against the doorframe, his blonde hair catching the morning sun like some ridiculous halo. "Morning," he said, that signature smirk that usually made my stomach flip, now twisting something raw and vulnerable in me. "Morning," I mumbled, trying to sound normal, which was impossible. Every word felt like it was being dragged through a hurricane. "You got a minute?" His tone was easy, but there was an edge to it that made me uneasy. I nodded, stepping aside. He followed without breaking eye contact, like he could see straight through my defenses. We ended up on my porch swing, the kind that squeaked if you leaned too far back, and for a moment neither of us spoke. I wanted to disappear, to sink through the floorboards and out of his sight, but I couldn't, and somehow I didn't. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" Ryan finally asked, his voice softening. Not a single hint of anger, just curiosity, maybe even a little hurt. My throat went dry. I didn't know how," I admitted, the words barely audible. He nodded slowly, a strange smile tugging at the corners of his lips. "I'm glad you did." I choked on a laugh that sounded more like a sob. "Glad? You're not. Mad." "Mad." His laugh was low, rich, and infuriatingly warm. "Why would I be mad? You just made things more interesting." "Interesting," I echoed, feeling like I just stepped off the edge of a cliff. "Yeah. It's not every day your best friend tells you he's been crushing on you for years." He paused, tilting his head, eyes glinting with something I couldn't name. Desire? Mischief? And now, well, I guess I won't be letting go anytime soon. I froze. My heart, which had been trying to behave like a reasonable organ, refused to cooperate. I wanted to pull back, to push him away, to restore some fraction of control over the chaos he had just stepped into. But something in his gaze held me hostage, gentle, teasing, yet undeniably insistent. The days that followed were a delicate, torturous dance. Every accidental touch, every laugh that lingered too long, every shared glance in the cafeteria felt like a spark striking dry wood. The fear of what could happen battled with the longing that had been buried so deep inside me. One rainy afternoon, we found ourselves sheltering under the awning of a closed-down diner. He pressed a hand to mine just briefly, as if testing the waters. I felt a shockwave roll through me, every nerve alive, every instinct screaming both yes and no. "You okay?" Ryan asked, tilting his head, his blonde hair plastered to his forehead. Rain dripped down both of us, but the world seemed to blur around the edges. All I could focus on was him. Words failed me. Fear, excitement, and a gnawing hunger twisted together in my chest. "Good," he said, eyes softening, "because I'm not going anywhere." It was a threat and a promise all wrapped in one. My stomach fluttered with a strange mix of panic and anticipation. I should have run. I wanted to run, but something inside me, something reckless and desperate, wanted to stay. Later that evening, sitting side by side on my bed, we didn't speak. Words felt unnecessary. The closeness was intoxicating, the air thick with possibility. I wanted to tell him to stop, but my body betrayed me, leaning subtly toward him, drawn like a moth to a flame I had been denying myself for far too long. Ryan noticed, of course. He always noticed. And he leaned closer, enough for our shoulders to brush, enough for his warm breath to ghost my ear. "You're mine," he whispered, teasing, dangerous, and achingly intimate. I laughed nervously, a high, trembling sound. "You already are," I admitted, my voice barely above the rain tapping on the window. His grin was infuriatingly victorious, yet gentle, like he had claimed not just my secret, but somehow my heart too. Outside, the night deepened, but in that tiny room, a storm had broken and settled, leaving in its wake a quiet, desperate, undeniable longing. And for the first time, I allowed myself to believe that maybe, just maybe, falling into his orbit wasn't the end of the world. Maybe it was the beginning. The following days felt like a delicate balancing act between tension and surrender. Every interaction with Ryan carried a weight that made my chest tight with anticipation. I caught him staring at me more often than usual, a small smirk tugging at his lips, like he knew exactly what effect he had on me. And he did. One Friday night, the small-town carnival came to our quiet street, lights twinkling against the darkening sky, laughter and music filling the air. I found myself walking beside him, hands brushing accidentally, then deliberately. My pulse spiked, betraying my attempts at calm composure. "Are you enjoying yourself?" he asked, tilting his head, his voice soft but teasing. I could hear the unspoken question behind the words. Yeah, I stammered, heart hammering. I had never been good at hiding anything from Ryan, and tonight I realized I didn't want to. He caught my hand and squeezed it gently. "Good," he said, and in that simple gesture, the world narrowed down to just us. We rode the Ferris wheel together, silence stretching comfortably between us, punctuated by the occasional nervous laugh or shared glance. When we reached the top, the carnival sprawling below us in a glittering sea of color, Ryan leaned closer, and my breath caught. "Beautiful, isn't it?" he murmured, not about the view, but about us, about the moment suspended between two people who had been dancing around each other for years. "Yeah?" I whispered, unable to speak the rest of the truth, that my life had shifted irrevocably the moment he stepped into that room, demanding to know my secret. He brushed a strand of hair from my forehead, his fingers lingering longer than necessary. "You know, you don't have to hide from me anymore," he said softly, his eyes searching mine. "Not your feelings, not yourself." I swallowed hard, my chest tightening as emotions I had buried for too long threatened to overflow. I don't want to hide," I admitted, voice trembling slightly. "That's my boy," he whispered, a playful glint in his eye, yet beneath it, an undeniable tenderness. The Ferris wheel creaked as it rotated, and the wind carried a chill that only made our closeness more necessary. Slowly, cautiously, he leaned in, and our lips met. It was soft, hesitant at first, like testing waters neither of us had dared to step into before. But then the hesitation melted away, replaced by a warmth and urgency that had been simmering for years. Pulling back slightly, he rested his forehead against mine. "Took you long enough," he teased, voice low and full of laughter. I laughed nervously, feeling the tension in my body dissolve. "I was scared," I admitted. "Scared of me?" he asked, smirk returning, though the tenderness in his eyes never wavered. "Scared of us?" I confessed, and somehow, saying it out loud made everything feel lighter, less fragile, less impossible. The night rolled on, and we wandered through the carnival hand in hand, lost in our own little world. The lights reflected in his eyes, making them seem brighter, almost otherworldly. And I realized, as I walked beside him, that the fear I had clung to for so long had no place here. Not when Ryan was by my side, unwavering, insistent, and tender all at once. Back at my house, the porch swing became our sanctuary. We didn't need words. The quiet was comfortable now, filled with the steady rhythm of our hearts. I leaned into him, and he wrapped an arm around my shoulders, pulling me close. For the first time in my life, I felt safe surrendering to someone completely. "You're really something, you know that?" he whispered, lips brushing my temple. "And you're relentless." I shot back, a small laugh escaping me. "You won't let me go, ever, will you?" "Not a chance," he said, tightening his hold just slightly, and I let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. As days turned into weeks, our friendship transformed into something deeper, richer, and entirely ours. We were still ourselves, still teasing, still joking, still comfortable in our shared history, but now, there was an intimacy, a connection that neither of us could or wanted totally. One Sunday morning, we found ourselves sprawled on my living room floor, a pile of comic books and empty soda cans around us. He nudged my shoulder with his, a playful grin on his face. "So, does this mean you're officially mine now?" I groaned dramatically, pretending to resist, but the truth was written all over my face. "Fine, you win," I admitted, laughing. "I guess I'm yours. And I'll be gentle," he said with mock solemnity, though the mischievous twinkle in his eye betrayed him. We laughed, a sound that felt like home. In that laughter, I felt the culmination of years of unspoken emotions, secrets, and fears finally giving way to something pure and enduring. Outside, the small town moved along, oblivious to the quiet revolution of two hearts learning to navigate love, trust, and desire. Ryan rested his head against mine, and I felt the steady warmth of his presence seep into me, washing away the remnants of doubt. "I never thought it could be like this," I murmured, more to myself than to him. "Neither did I," he admitted, eyes closing briefly as he let the sun catch his hair. "But I'm glad it is." And I was. For the first time, I realized that the fear of being discovered, the anxiety over secrets, had been nothing compared to the joy of being seen, fully, by someone who truly mattered. Ryan had not just found my secret, had found me. And in finding me, he had claimed a piece of my heart I hadn't known I was ready to give. I leaned into him, resting my head against his chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. It was a simple moment, yet it held everything I had ever wanted: acceptance, understanding, and the intoxicating promise of a love that was patient, relentless, and entirely our own. As the sunlight spilled across the room, warming us from the outside in, I realized that falling for him hadn't been the end of the world. It had been the beginning, and for once I didn't want to run. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.